While the AAA side of the video game industry has practically abandoned the management and strategy genres in favour of open worlds and explosive action, indie developers have embraced it. Over the past few years, thanks to the indies, we've seen many great management and strategy games of all kind appear on the market, from retro inspirations to whole new never before seen experiences. And the latest game I found while searching on Steam is one of those games that isn't quite like anything I've played before. And that game is McMagic Productions' early access title, The Wild Age. The Wild Age is a micromanagement and strategy hybrid currently being developed and self-published by indie developer McMagic Productions. It released on Steam Early Access March 7th, 2019 and is estimated to be completed within a few months' time. At its core, The Wild Age is a micromanagement game first and a strategy game second, offering a more relaxed and laid-back experience. But despite its more casual approach, The Wild Age still requires thought and careful planning that will put both your strategy and management skills to the test, where the wrong decision at the wrong time can result in your doom. The Wild Age doesn't have a plot as such, but instead an objective. You take on the role of a new ruler who is tasked with creating new and completely independent settlements across a series of islands, each island having its own objective that must be met in order to be victorious. But this isn't as easy as it seems, as during the night, goblins attack your settlement and with each passing day become more aggressive and numerous. The key to success: a balance between defense, production and construction. At the start of the game you get to customize your avatar. You can choose what kind of avatar you have, the colour your avatar is, and the type of mount that you want to use. Along with that you get to choose the type of pet you bring with you, the type of coin bag, the colour and shape of your coins, the type of banner you have, and the colour of your banner. In the beginning, a lot of the avatar mount and pet options are locked, with you unlocking them the further in the game you progress. But all optional customization like bag type, banner type, coin type and colours are available from the start. Different mounts and avatars have their own bonuses. For the avatars, the knight gains additional hit points for walls and accuracy for archers. The king or queen gain more HP for walls and a bonus to interest in the bank. And the druid and wizard gain extra coins from treasure chests and have a reduction in enemies that attack the settlement. As for the mounts, the horse has good speed overall with extra in-forest terrain and great stamina. The bear has average speed overall and gains a massive bonus in forests, but this is countered by lower stamina. The wolf is essentially the same as the bear but with more stamina. The tigers are the best of the basic mounts with great speed both overall and in forests and have excellent stamina. Then you have the special mounts, which are the rabbit and deer. The deer is a very fast mount with good stamina that also lures other deers to it. The rabbit does exactly the same but is a much slower mount with less stamina, but this is countered by the fact that it lures other rabbits to it, the most common animal to hunt. Each of the avatars available makes a slight change to the gameplay, though nothing too dramatic to the point that it loses its laid-back nature. The mounts, unlike the avatars on the other hand, can quite dramatically affect the gameplay. With the Wild Age working around the cycle of day and night, it is often a case of making the most of the daytime, while trying to survive yet another wave at night. The slower overall speed and lower stamina of some of the mounts means you can't cover as much ground during the day, resulting in you needing to be a lot more strategic in how you go about your daily routine. It is a nice idea, as each mount with their advantages and disadvantages helps change up the gameplay, and with new ones unlocking as you progress in the game, it keeps the overall experience from becoming stale. The customization in the Wild Age may not be to that of some games, but it offers a satisfactory level for a small indie game that most would be more than happy with. And with new avatars, pets and mounts unlocking as you progress, there's always something new to try out. The player is also able to change the customization of their avatar at any time by selecting a customize avatar option in the pause menu, resulting in you not having to start over from scratch to try out a new avatar or mount, which is a nice design choice. So how exactly does the Wild Age work? Each island has a specific objective that must be met before being able to move on to the next. These objectives include surviving a certain number of days, hunting a specific number of animals, or repairing and upgrading your boat to a particular level. The further you progress in the game, the more difficult the objective is. In a lot of strategy games of this style, the big issue is that each and every level is a case of surviving X amount of days. But with the Wild Age, that isn't the case. Instead, each level has its own objective that must be completed, forcing the player to change their priorities in accordance with the task at hand. For survival levels, you tend to focus more on improving and strengthening your defences, while with levels that require you to hunt a specific number of animals, you focus more on hiring as many hunters as possible to get the job done quickly. It results in the gameplay changing consistently from level to level, despite it being pretty much the same thing over and over. The difference it makes is subtle, but the impact it has on the longevity of the game is incredible. At the beginning of an island, you start off with nothing but a small number of coins and a town sitting in the middle of a two-way map, where enemies spawn in at night from portals at the end of each side of it. From here you must establish a new settlement and begin hiring new villagers found at vagrant camps scattered throughout the map by dropping coins on the ground. Upon hiring a villager, you can then apply them to a specific role by crafting a tool at the workshops, with each tool costing a certain amount of coins. For example, the bow workshop turns villagers into hunters that hunt wildlife during the day and defend the town at night. The hammer workshops turn villagers into builders who build new constructions and upgrades to your settlement, and so on and so forth. Bows cost 2 coins each, hammers and axes cost 3 coins each, and sickles for farming cost 4 coins each. You gain more coins from villagers completing tasks along with treasure chests that can be found hidden in the forests. Villagers' tasks include hunting, cutting down trees and farming. The more animals your hunters kill, the more coins you gain. The same applies to cutting down the trees. The only difference is you need to manually select the trees the woodcutters chop down. And farmers work automatically once you have a farm built, with up to 3 farmers being stationed at each farm. The more farmers that are farmed, the quicker the crops grow and the more coins you earn. Upon completing their tasks, the villagers will collect the coins and then drop them for you to collect when you are nearby. This is often best left until night time, where all your villagers gather back at the safety of the town, allowing for easy collecting. Each level has a specific number of treasure chests to be found, each containing around 10 or so coins. These are extremely useful to seek out and find at the beginning of level, as they give a real kickstart to setting up your settlement, especially with defences. You can then spend the coins how you see fit, be it hiring and applying roles to more villagers, upgrading the town centre, or increasing the settlement's walls and towers for defence, or sending a town merchant on a trade run. The choice is entirely yours to make. The workings of the collecting and gaining of coins are actually really well done, and allow for the game to be played one-handed, as movement and spending of coins can be done entirely using the left and right mouse buttons. So you can use the WASD keys to move if you want to. And that is your entire role in the game, managing and directing the town and its villagers while they go about their daily routines and you gather the coins they earn. As previously stated, the whole mechanic of gaining and spending coins results in you having to balance between hiring new villagers, upgrading the town and its defences. And it is with this that the strategy of the game comes into play. As the more villagers you have gaining coins, the more money you're going to make, but at the same time it costs money in order to achieve that. Aim solely to earning more money from the beginning and your settlement will be completely overwhelmed from nightly goblin attacks. If you don't upgrade your town enough as you progress, your defences won't keep up with the progressively more powerful attacks at night. So identifying and choosing what to spend money on at what time is crucial and can quickly make the difference between defeat and victory. It isn't an extremely complex or massively in-depth strategy, but it is an effective one that gives just enough to keep strategy fans happy while also keeping the laid back and more relaxed nature of the game. As you progress in the game, you unlock new upgrades that can be applied to the town, upgrades that are previously unavailable to you. As an example, upon completing the first island you unlock the stone shrine. This shrine is required to build in each level in order to unlock additional town upgrades, such as increasing the town centre to level 4 and above, levelling up walls of the town beyond level 2, and so on and so forth. Then upgrading the town centre unlocks additional new services such as the sickle workshop and the bank. The unlocking of the upgrades makes the game remain fresh throughout, adding in new content whenever you progress. It results in there always being something new to discover in a level and add to your settlement, ultimately keeping it engaging from start to finish. The cost of each upgrade is also well balanced and never feels like it is costing too much or too little for the bonuses the upgrade gives. As the days progress in a level and the enemies become more powerful and numerous, you will need to expand the defences of your settlement, further out both sides of the town, as enemies can attack from either or both sides of the settlement. To do this you need to clear out all the trees, another reason other than gaining money to have woodcutters. Only once you've cut down all the trees in a section, ultimately turning it into a meadow, you can expand your defences with an additional wall and tower. You can only clear out sections of trees in order, meaning you need to clear them out in succession as opposed to clearing one out, skipping one and moving on to the next. Clearing out forests turns that section of the map into a meadow, also causes more rabbits to spawn at the start of each day, but as soon as a wall or tower is built, they will no longer spawn in that section. This results in the expansion of your defences coming at a cost of hunters having to travel further to find animals to hunt, adding another layer of strategy to take into consideration with the balancing of your overall management and tactics. The expansion of your settlement works reasonably well, but the game leaves you to figure its workings. Most of the mechanics of the game are explained through on-screen instructions on the first island, but expanding your town's defences and chopping down of trees is not. I love the Wild Age's approach to not having lengthy tutorials, instead choosing an on-screen instruction approach that blends in with the gameplay. And I am certainly one that approves of games not holding your hand, but nevertheless this is a mechanic that needs to be explained in the same way as the rest. It is probably just an oversight, as the expansion of defences isn't something that really is needed until level 3 or 4. The upgrading of your innermost towers and walls is generally enough for the levels up to that point. It isn't something that lessens the experience or makes the game difficult to play, it just results in it taking longer for the player to understand and figure out compared to the rest of the mechanics of the game. Other than that, however, the expansion of the settlements works well. Then there are the nightly attacks from the goblins. How this works is that come 7 PM, nightfall begins to descend and will last until 6 AM the next morning. During these hours, goblins can attack at any point, spawning from one or both portals found at the far reaches of the map on either side of the settlement. Once nightfall starts to creep in, all villagers will begin to make their way back to the safety of the town. You too, due to having no form of attack, must stay within the boundaries of the walls at night, or you will quickly be killed. If you die, you have to start the entire level over from the beginning, adding in a roguelike element to the game. So if you're out exploring, you need to make sure to get back to the town before the goblins find and attack you. Your only form of attack against the enemy waves is your hunters at this moment in time. Come night time, the hunters position themselves inside the walls, while others will station themselves automatically upon all towers you've constructed. As long as you've hired enough hunters and upgraded your walls effectively in accordance to how many days have passed and the strength of the attack wave, your walls and hunters should be able to hold back the wave. If any goblins are still alive come 6 AM, they will retreat back to the portal they came from. Should the goblins break through your innermost walls, they will start to attack any villager in sight. If they hit a villager, they will lose their role. So for example, if they hit an axeman, they will simply be a villager again, and you will need to make another axe to once again give them that role. If they are hit a second time before you can restore that role, they become vagrants, and you'll need to once again hire them, costing 1 additional coin per vagrant. During these night raids, it is simply a case of the player waiting and hoping they've done enough that their defences hold against the attack until daybreak. The only thing you can do is walk around the inner grounds of the settlement collecting coins dropped by hunters, farmers, woodcutters, assuming they have any to drop for you. If you succeed in holding the attack back, you will begin the next day as usual and go about your management routine, and having any repairs done that is needed before the next attack the following night. It is an unusual design choice for the gameplay and one that took me some getting used to. Generally when playing a strategy game, you're in full control of what is going on at all times, and any mistakes that you make can be turned around with some skillful move and unit placement. But in the Wild Age, come nightfall, you are vulnerable and helpless. Your only hope is that you've done a good job with hiring hunters and building your defences before the attack waves get too big. But that isn't to say it is an ineffective design choice. Quite the opposite in fact, and one that works well with the concept of the game. At the end of the day, you're a ruler, not a fighter. You lead and your settlement thrives on that, not combat abilities. It gives the game a much needed intensity and sense of urgency that ultimately makes the micromanagement of the game satisfying and fulfilling. If your defences hold, it means you're doing a damn good job. It works so well because it is that sense of achievement that keeps you gripped no matter if you're playing for the strategy side of the game or the management. And in many ways, it is what carries the game. But that is not to say the nighttime raids aren't without their issues. Firstly, as previously mentioned, villagers return to town come nightfall. All except the woodcutters, that is. If the woodcutters are given orders to cut down trees, they will continue to do so even during the night. If they happen to be in the path of a goblin wave attacking the town, they will be attacked, forcing you to rehire them again. Realistically, they should return to town as the farmers, builders and hunters do, but they don't, and it is a minor frustration. The only other issue right now, though it is intended to be implemented as development progresses, is that there are no melee defensive units, meaning once the goblins break through the walls, there is nothing stopping them from attacking anyone they can. The option of having a melee force on the outside of the walls or one that attacks as a wall for citizens to hide behind would make a huge difference to the nighttime raids. Right now they feel underdeveloped due to the lack of multiple defensive units. But despite the issues, the overall nighttime raids are intense and fit in perfectly with the concept of the game, turning it from what would be a monotonous exercise to one of intensity and achievement. As a whole, the gameplay of the Wild Age is very well done. It does have a few issues such as not explaining all mechanics, and the enemy raids do feel a little bare right now. But despite that, the gameplay is addictive, rewarding and intense at times, whilst also keeping a more relaxed approach. It is a management game first and a strategy second, but there is more than enough to keep fans of both engaged, all the while introducing new content as you progress in the game. The final things to discuss with the gameplay is the island editor and the leaderboards. The island editor allows you to create your own level, from the size to how quick winter arrives and the difficulty, along with what each section of the map contains, such as forest, wall, meadow, vagrant camp and so on and so forth. It is a neat little addition that allows you to create a map and scenario that you wish to, as opposed to just playing the campaign levels. While it isn't my cup of tea personally, it is a fun addition that adds to the overall content of the game for those who enjoy making their own levels. The leaderboards are separated into two primary categories: the weekly leaderboards and the overall leaderboards. This essentially calculates each player's statistics, such as trees chopped down, animals hunted, coins collected and so on an overall and weekly basis. The players who have achieved the most in each of these are placed on the leaderboards. The overall leaderboards don't affect the gameplay, but the weekly leaderboards grant additional bonuses to those who are in the top 10 rankings of each one. For example, on days survived, the player with the most days survived receive a bonus to the health points of their walls. The players with the most coins collected gain a bonus to interest in the bank, and the players with the most animals hunted gain an accuracy bonus to archers. The bonuses aren't huge to a point to change the gameplay to any spectacular degree, but it adds competitiveness and rewards those who play the game and generally spend time with it. It isn't necessary to attempt to take part in the leaderboards, but they are a nice addition that rewards the players who enjoy the game. Much like the gameplay, the atmosphere to the Wild Age takes a more relaxed approach to it. During the daytime you get the sense of safety and tranquility between the sunshine and the sounds of the birds chirping from the trees surrounding the settlement, and the slow, light and peace-filled soundtrack that plays in the background. At night everything goes dark and the dim illumination from the torches helps create an almost horror feel, with a quiet yet eerie soundtrack subtly playing in the background. The two work perfectly well with the gameplay, with daytime giving that sense of peace and harmony, while at night you can feel the approaching wave of enemies coming as you sit and patiently wait for their arrival. It works brilliantly. But if there is one issue I would have, it would be that there is no urgency. Never does it feel like the last stand it is supposed to be. I would like to see a more war-filled style to the soundtrack to play when the enemies reach the walls, to give the attacks a sense of danger. Right now it just sticks to that eerie feeling that is perfect for a build-up, but not so much for when the goblins are beating down your walls. I want a feeling of desperation about it, a sense that if the enemy breaks through, it will likely be the end. And sadly it just doesn't have that right now, and if it was to be implemented it would really increase the overall intensity and impact of the raids. But aside from that, the atmosphere is well done, keeping that relaxed feel to the game due to there not being any real oppression to it. But that urgency for enemy raids would certainly add a whole new element to the atmosphere overall. The Wild Age has been one of the most interesting titles I've done an autopsy on yet because of its very different gameplay style. It is a game that wears its inspiration heavily from another game called Kingdom, which I'm not familiar with so I cannot compare. But it is a game that attempts to create a more relaxed gameplay experience and pulls it off very well. Indeed, the micromanagement of the Wild Age mixed with the lack of strategic depth won't be the experience that hardcore strategy veterans will be looking for. But for what it lacks in strategic depth, it more than makes up for with addictive, rewarding and refreshing gameplay that will keep you engaged from beginning to end. It is a game that at times feels a bit bare-boned, especially with the lack of melee defensive units. But the developer does plan on adding in new content as development progresses, including night side quests and the ability to attack enemy encampments. And if this is the genuinely enjoyable experience the game provides now without those features, the future of the Wild Age is looking very bright indeed.